First invite Mr. Varda, well known as Varda, Mr. Vardharaj Venkateshwar, the Associate Vice President Talent Acquisition of Infosys Limited, to start this session by delivering his keynote. Mr. Varda, with a big round of applause to Mr. Vardharajan of Infosys.
So thank you very much. I think my name is a tongue twister, and people keep getting it wrong, right? Even now, the name is wrong. Nevertheless, name is Vardharaj Venkatraman. Okay, so Venkateshwar is something even above my name in any case. So anyway, thank you very much. On the morning, Linda, I think you've been listening to a lot of talks about recruitment trends, companies, this, that, what are they doing, what are they not doing, so on and so forth. So actually, when I saw the agenda, the first question that I asked Suresh was, boss, why are you killing them with an overdose of recruitment trends? Like, there's only this much that somebody can speak and somebody can digest, because it's not as if recruitment trends are intrinsic to a company per se, right? The recruitment trends in the market are typically what an industry goes through. So if you have more of the same talking, you will get more of the same, right? So I think I would actually think that Sudeep did a fabulous job today of actually taking you through what are the things that are happening in the industry, what are the technology trends, what are some of the things that organizations like TCS and Infosys and Cognizant and Wipro and whoever else, right, Sintel, everybody is doing to attract talent, trying to do things differently, trying to look at different ways of assessments, different ways of recruiting, and so on and so forth. So here is what I thought I will speak about. At present, what we're seeing is, look, there is this whole upheaval, there is this downturn, the cycle keeps happening, right? 2000, the dot-com bubble burst, Y2K era, mudinja again, the dot-com thing came up, that burst. Then the 2004 there was a recession, 2007 there was a recession, 2010 there was a recession, and now naturally the expectation was that in 2014 there would be a recession. But thankfully, the Modi wave did it in. I think it's kind of turned the things slightly differently, and hopefully it's positively for all of us. That is looking on an upward curve. Things are looking better and brighter at this point of time. With this whole startup bug which is there right now, anybody and everybody and his mother are starting off companies. Right? Everybody is starting off companies. There is no dearth of funds at this point of time. So if students or if faculty members or if anybody for that matter has a good idea, there are angel investors, there are investors, VCs who are willing to fund money into that. Obviously, they have a selfish motive to ensure that at the end of the day, at the end of a year or 3 years timeline, they get a return on that, on the investment that they're making. So it's essentially that. People are just putting in money. Instead of a bank, they're putting in something else, trying to get a better bang for the buck, better return, and so on and so forth. So this trend is continuing. There are a lot of startups that are there. When you go to engineering colleges, when you go to, I was at the IITs, just 2 days back on 1st of December, recruiting in some fairly large volumes from there. It was quite interesting and amazing to look at the number of students who came and said, look, well, I would love to work with you for obviously the compensation that we were paying and the work that we had promised them. But they said, look, I would like to start something on my own. And these are people who are, in the college, trying to get together, have a new idea, and they're starting off. So one classic case was, housing.com, for example. That's hotcakes now at this point of time, right? That was set up by a bunch of, third-year students at IIT Bombay. When they were graduating, 12 of them got together, said, why not make a good portal which will, possibly take care of all kinds of issues with regard to finding a place to stay, finding a good rental place to stay, validating the information that you really find on those portals and stuff. And now it's getting valued at close to 600 crores, right? And they are going to the IITs back. And when we were there, we also saw housing.com folks. The founder is an alma mater of IIT Bombay. He graduated 2 years back, or 1 year back, sorry. He's there to recruit people and offering salaries of 19 lakhs and 20 lakhs, for example. Right? So I think what I'm saying essentially is that the trend is is disruptive at this point of time. It's no longer a, a regimented structure where, okay, I've joined an engineering college, I go through a 4-year study, then I know the college will try and help in placements. Hopefully I should land up a job in the IT industry. And, then after that, life takes its own turns and stuff, right? The trend has changed so much that there are people who are actually wanting to make a difference in a very different way, that too. And when I'm saying the difference is socially impactful, financially rewarding, and entrepreneurially stimulating in that sense. So there are people who are doing this, and that's a trend that we continue to see. So what are organizations trying to do in this? And I can even speak of what can colleges do to kind of harness this opportunity as well. Organizations have set up what are called seed funds. So for example, Infosys, we ourselves have set up a $10 million fund for idea generations internally within the organization. And we have set aside another $100 million for partnering with startups across the globe. So there's a partner ecosystem that we've created where, using the funds that is available, we want to put seed fundings into many of those organizations, grow with them. And the reason why many of these companies are also doing this, it's also because you as an organization also start getting to work on cutting edge technology, which those guys are working on at this point of time, right? So startups always have a very limited approach, but they are completely open about technology, disruption, and they have new ideas as well. So companies are trying to get more and more into that. Okay? So, and of course, the students themselves, for example, at college level or even employee level, the youngsters, the young guns of the company, they want change at all points of time. They get bored very soon, very fast, right? They don't want to do the same thing over and over again. If they've done once, another 1 week or 2 weeks down the line, they say, look, can I get something else? Or can I do something more than just this? In that sense. So that's the culture or the attribute of Gen Y, so to speak, is very different from the culture, the organizational culture and the employee morale or the culture that was prevalent many years ago, or at least 2 generations prior to that. So the fresh engineers, they want things here and now. They want instant recognition. They want to be working on high-end projects. They want to be able to learn. They want to be try and be ahead of the curve. And there's a lot of competition amongst the people, right? They are actually competing amongst themselves because social media is so prevalent nowadays that you won't believe if tomorrow somebody comes and says, look, my most exciting day at work, I got to create something and got rewarded for it. And that goes up on social media. Well, of course, the caveat is that, the restrictions is that, when we say responsible freedom, it's also that, well, you use this freedom responsibly, but not by ensuring that you're not giving more information that you should be, in that sense, right? So, but all thing is happening, and information is transmitting so fast that any decision that organizations are taking nowadays, believe you me, any decision, including most importantly HR policies, practices, and so on and so forth, the first thing that comes to the mind of people is, what if this goes on social media? Right? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Is that going to be blown out of proportion? And is there a way that we can counter if it is unnecessarily blown out of proportion as well? So there are people who are thinking about this at all points of time because of the kind of connect that people have at this point of time. Through all these, WhatsApp, Facebook, LinkedIn, what have you. And every now, another day there is a social networking site that's coming up as well. So to an extent, this brings in a lot of responsibility amongst the people, but it also puts tremendous amount of responsibility on the organizations to recognize that these are pervasive trends, that social media is not going to die. People are going to continue to access, be able to access social media and so on and so forth. So I give a classic case in Infosys, for example, right? Until last year, we never allowed people to bring their own devices because for us, information security was paramount. Because we have a lot of client data on our servers, a lot of employee data on our servers, it becomes extremely important for us to ensure that data is secure, in more ways than one. Come turn 2014, we allow all kinds of devices now. So you come over, bring your own device, configure your mails, everything you can do, everything that you want. You can access social media sitting out of here. While you're working, you access social media as well in that sense, right? All your connect with your friends and what have you. But of course, a little bit of responsibility to ensure that you're being a professional. So the same thing can happen in colleges as well. And I'm sure that, while you may have, preventive mechanisms in place to ensure that students don't access internet within a certain period of time, but see what happens once they get back home, right? They stay up until 2 o'clock, possibly chatting up with people. And the downside of this is you increasingly start finding people being isolated with themselves, or they are more into themselves with the phone. So it is their image. It more and more becomes, how are others going to perceive my image as a person who has a smartphone and who is on Facebook, right? So it becomes a very, very, me thing. So that particular attribute or the change that is happening at this point of time, that needs to be contained to an extent. But that is not by means of, the containment of this is not by prohibition, right? It is by ensuring that there is enough education and awareness that's made available for them. So what we are also increasingly seeing is that, interestingly, when we do our examinations and when we do our training and we conduct assessments, we see a lot of the Facebook lingo, SMS lingo coming into that. If you're asking people to respond to a situation, a client situation, or anything internal, write a simple email asking for an approval for doing a certain thing or accessing a certain, sensitive data. There goes PL, please. PLS, please. Right? GV, give. Me, PRMSN, permission. And we are supposed to, read through and understand that this is what it means, actually. We are not used to that, right? So some of this has to change, because people at the end of the day, if this is the language that somebody is going to be using, even internally for that matter, because these are official mails, these are all recorded on the systems, and at any point of time, after 10 years, if you want to take a look at some of the mails that people would have sent, the organization has every ability to do that, because we keep archiving those information, right? So this has to completely change, and I would think that a lot of things that Sudeep has covered is very relevant, not just from a technology standpoint, but also from some of the skills that are needed by the students and folks to ensure that they do well in the industry. But I would personally, talk a lot more about the communication aspect of it, because while you have a set of people who don't need to be extremely good in communication, but what's also happening is that increasingly the aspiration levels of people are going up. A BSc student who is working on resolving tickets, doing infrastructure management services, in 2 years' time, the person starts doing well, let's say, or even 1 year's time, the person does very well. The first thing that they do is they compare themselves with the engineers, saying, look, he's doing the same job, and I'm doing the same job, and I'm probably doing better than he is or she is. Why shouldn't I be paid more, or why shouldn't I be given that opportunity to start playing that role itself? And when you move this person to that next level and make him or her equivalent, this comparison starts continuing. And then the question comes, why should I do this job? Right? Why should I do ticket resolution? Why can't you give me a high-end software coding project in that sense? I'm capable. Right? So it's a mix in that sense. So the students, if you ask me, or the freshmen who come out of college and get into organizations, aspiration levels keep increasing. It's a human psychology, it's human tendency. No amount of money is enough, right? You have 25 crores in the bank, that's too little for me, right? Just not enough. So just like that, individual aspirations are also going up tremendously. And with it, there is also a decadence of integrity, right? So as much as communication skills as we're talking about, there are a couple of things that are paramount to any organization. It's about integrity. Because believe me, we get projects from the US and rest of the world, and the perception that companies like all of ours, my peer companies, that the perception that we are taking away American jobs, it is not gone. It's still there in the minds of people out there in the US. Most recently, I would say, last year, Detroit, the automotive hub of the world, where almost anybody and everybody who sells several millions of vehicles globally, they have their manufacturing hubs, they had to lay off a whole lot of people. And 2,000 people that they laid off in Detroit was huge news, big news. And you know what? Some of the things comments started floating around. Well, these jobs would have gone to India, right? Some guy sitting in a remote corner of India where probably you don't even have good roads. This guy sitting in some fancy building, it's in front of a computer, is actually doing the work that this person is doing. It's a perception. But it takes a lot out of organizations to kill that perception or overcome that perception. Right? So from that perspective, I think it's very important that, number one, the whole knowledge aspect of what students know, knowledge aspect of what the freshers know, has to be extremely important. And towards that, the colleges can play a significant role in this. One is about being good engineers, right? The joy of engineering, joy of design, that seems to have gone away. That seems to have completely been thrown out of the window. Because at this point of time, I can relate to the pains that you go through, primarily because at the time of admissions, the parents are coming along with the student to say, look, boss, I am investing, right? Probably ₹1.5 lakh every year on this guy's education or this child's education. How soon can I recover that money? Agreed or not? Right? This is what they'll come and ask you. Do they ever come and say, look, you are a great college. Can you transform my child into a wonderful or a great engineer? Believe me, I think amongst the parents, it'll be zero. Nobody will ask you. Because it's pure ROI, return on investment. That's it. Interest, I'm paying loan I take. I pay some 10-12% interest and whatever. So I have to repay the loan as soon as possible. And as a parent, I don't want to take the burden of paying that loan. Let him get a job, he jolly well start paying for it. Right? So there the problem starts. And what will be the student's mindset in this kind of a scenario? He or she is also going to be starting to look at saying, okay, then my only aim is that first semester when companies are going to come. So there goes actual education out of the window. In comes aptitude training. Right? Well, I'm not, there's nothing negative about, training organizations and agencies, but because they're here to do a job. Absolutely. They do a good job of training people. But then the focus of students should not be shifting away from education to only about preparation for aptitude. If that's the case, then it's just not going to help. So towards this, I think what companies are innovatively trying to do, a lot of these contests that we spoke about, right? Infosys does as well. A lot of other companies do contests as an innovative way of hiring, because you get to actually experience people who are doing this for a living or for a contest. You actually see them doing this, and you know that, well, these are the guys who know the stuff, and you would rather recruit them rather than, instead of trying to hedge your bets somewhere else without even knowing how they're going to perform in your organization or in the training process. Some of these innovative stuff companies are doing. There are internships that companies are offering. There are these contests and hackathons that companies are organizing. 24-hour, 48-hour hackathons where people just huddle into a room and they come out with mobile apps and so on and so forth, which could be for a social cause or for something else altogether in that sense, right? And well, there are big stakes, big monies to be won as well. So there are companies that are innovatively trying to recruit people who don't have to go through a lot of training, right? I'll give a classic example. 2 years back, it's not too long, so the trend hasn't changed too much in these 2 years, except that the number of engineering colleges in Tamil Nadu has exploded. Um, 2 years back, we got 200 people from China. And we told the government, Chinese government, to look at a Hangzhou province, which doesn't have very many engineering colleges. They are a Hangzhou, outside of the main, this hub of the city and stuff. Outside of that is very rural in nature, right? We told them to send 200 students from engineering colleges in and around those places. If you send them over, we will house them at our Mysore campus, make them go through training. And at the end of training, if they do well, we might even consider offering a job. Can you guess the performance? Out of 200, 90% of them straight A pluses in training. Straight A pluses. In the first attempt of every assessment, they have cleared. Come to India. The first attempt clearance, 12%. Just 12%. And what are we asking these people on? Fundamentals, conceptual level knowledge, which they would have actually learnt in semester 1 and 2, or year 1 and 2 in engineering college. Well, of course, we give them, at least in India, we give multiple attempts. We give them maybe 3 or 4. We pamper them with more and more attempts, make-up tests, make-up. It can go on, ad infinitum. Limit tends to infinity is what we try to do, just to ensure that people are able to clear the training also to an extent. But on the first attempt, if I look at it, 12% India, 90% China. So we spoil our people ourselves, right? We pamper them a lot. I'm saying the parents, the society, all that stuff. It's incredible. It's really incredible. But then, of course, are we saying that we are any bad, worse off that way? Not really, because the students or children in India, the exposure that they get is a lot more broad-based. A lot more broad-based than what you would find from students in China. Versatility, flexibility, multitasking abilities. These are things that make us proud as Indians. I interact with a lot of people from the US, especially the client side, where we are trying to help them. Very clearly, you can see the difference that we bring to the table versus how they would approach a problem. For them, Americans, Brits, give them a problem, they will focus on that and close it, and then move to the next one. What we do, one problem, okay, let me do part of this problem. Let me spend 2 hours on this today to take care of this problem. Immediately switch to some other problem and try to take care of that. So that multitasking ability and ability to switch mindsets from one to the other, that's an incredible attribute that we have. So in my view, I think, I don't want to take too much time and give more and more gyan, but I think what as institutions we need to really focus on is, build that aptitude in them for actual engineering. The joy of engineering is something I would suggest that you try and do a course in the first year, implement a course for them. There are these IEEE kind of organizations, and I think there's IET is also there, UK based. They have a fabulous course from what I know in the joy of engineering, as what it's called. And I know of certain top-notch institutions who have actually practiced this. So the first semester when these people come, when they join, give them this course which actually makes them start liking to be an engineer and liking what engineering is all about. Rather than thinking of what am I going to do in my 4th year, where am I going to get a job, and which are the things that I need to do, and so on and so forth. Right? So as an organization, at least from an Infosys standpoint, what we would like to tell is, see, conceptual knowledge is very, very important, extremely important, and increasingly you find that recruiting across the organizations are becoming very focused towards business units, mechanical engineers, electronics engineers getting into VLSI, mechanical engineers getting into aero and automobile and CAD, CAM, PLM, all that stuff, right? This is becoming more and more pervasive. And that's also because clients are also expecting that organization starts providing more and more value to them rather than just being technology service providers. So there's obviously a consulting aspect to it, but more importantly, even the technology people, if they have domain knowledge, they become better technologists themselves. They are able to relate a lot better to the client's needs and are able to respond better with solutions. So I think the joy of engineering is something that's very, very important. Communication skills. I wouldn't say you prevent people from using smartphones and whatever, but at least ask them to write proper emails, communicate properly, speak to each other properly. Let them not, I think, I recently read a report or an article by one of the very reputed universities in the UK. They've actually predicted that in another 10 years' time, people will not have friends. Physically, people will never be interacting with each other. You wouldn't find them. But more and more, you'll find people glued to the smartphones, squint vision, that's going to become more and more common, right? Looking down and seeing Tokyo, that might come about. And you're going to have people who are more and more focused into themselves. My image, what am I doing? How are people seeing me on Facebook? What do I put so that I get more and more likes? So it's that ego pampering that really happens. So in my view, I think you should break that mold, at least for your students. It's good to have smartphones, work on that and all that stuff, but then look, don't be so hooked to it that you start alienating yourself from people. Because whatever said and done, right, you have to reach out to them, right? In-person contact becomes so important, and that's where you actually communicate with people. Otherwise, your ability to adapt to a professional life will become more and more difficult. The ability to communicate will become so difficult that you'll start sending SMS lingo, you'll start using Facebook lingo and all that stuff. That's exactly what will happen ultimately. And clients won't like it. Clients just don't like it. And so for whatever said and done, US, given its extremely advanced thinking on technology and the earliest adopters of technology, when it comes to communication, I think they are extreme sticklers for decency, articulation, the sentence construction, and so on and so forth. And they don't hesitate to write back saying, look, I think this is very bad English. I don't think I want to have this person working on my project. Well, I'm saying, what I'm trying to say is that a couple of mistakes are all okay. I think these are, people also appreciate and understand that, well, people learn. Right? Unless the person is so technically proficient and it's a do or die for that particular project, a lot of clients come and say, no, I don't think, we are not able to interact too much with this person. We are not able to communicate, or we are not able to get a feel or a sense that he or she is able to understand what we're trying to articulate. So that becomes very important. Technical orientation, of course. I think when I'm saying joy of engineering, you build the technology part of it. That's becoming pervasive. It's there everywhere. I mean, you yourself use so much technology even now with what you're wearing. In that sense, right? Just your watches in that sense. The amount of technology that goes in there. The phone that you have, the amount of technology that's there, the car keys that you might have, automobiles and whatever, right? So that's this enormous amount of technology that people are getting exposed to. I think it's important that people embrace it very well, not get scared of technology, especially the first semester and stuff when you actually do C and C++ coding and all that stuff. Please allay fears of many other people. Because I think what we've seen is students from branches like chemical, civil, industrial, production, they struggle. They struggle a lot in actually, being able to cope up with technology, training, and so on and so forth. So that additional focus on them, additional input to them to ensure that they tide over this also becomes extremely important. So I think you have a large role to play. I would say embrace technology, focus on the joy of engineering piece. Give them the freedom, give them the flexibility, but of course, let them be responsible for their own actions. Be punitive in case they do something very wrong. Give them access so that they're able to learn things on their own. Students, they learn a lot of things on their own nowadays. Trust me, I think it's kind of unheard of, right? So the amount of information that's there for them to access, that's available around, I think it's huge. Just spending a couple of hours on YouTube. If you're curious, you can continue to keep mining and searching and stuff and learn more and more. I think these are things that it's very important that you motivate in the students with an aspiration that they continue to learn more and more and not just while away their time watching frivolous videos and all that stuff. right? So I think I don't have much to speak about beyond this. So as colleges, you have a lot of responsibility, and each one of you, handling about 400, 500 students in each of your colleges. I think, you really are the future, or the students that you have or that you're honing, grooming. They are literally the future for most of the organizations and companies. And it's important that India does not lose its edge over competition, especially China and places, BRICS especially, right? Brazil and Russia and China. Just because we are only surviving on our, ability to multitask, communicate. China is doing everything that it takes to ensure that they're coming up on the communication aspect. The Chinese government has done something where there are English assessments and courses that are being implemented and tests being conducted. If students don't clear that, it's conducted. Okay, I thought that was time for me to stop. Okay. So like I said, just one thing, China is doing everything it takes. So they have implemented courseware, they've implemented assessments which are conducted at a national level, like our CAT and GMAT and GRE and all that stuff. Whoever does not clear that English assessment does not graduate, does not get an engineering degree. Just does not. And I'm told the pass rate at this point of time is 40%. And in China, anybody who can speak proper English has already got placed, or when I'm saying got admit to a university in the US. Right? We should not be ending up in a losing path at this point in time. We have something really good going for us. I think it's very important that we try to build on it, and ensure that the industry as such, be it IT, non-IT, core, everything, that kind of thrives a lot more. Then Make in India, all those campaigns will become useless if the talent is not there in that sense. Okay, thank you very much. Didn't want to take too much time. Thanks a lot.